Welcome to Conversation Mill. Join me as I talk to individuals stepping out to pursue their passions, from small business owners to community leaders, and learn with me how we can work together to support our local communities and local economies. Visit conversationmill.com to learn more, but now please join us in conversation. Brittney Brackett is an actor, a voice artist, a singer, a writer of children's books, an entrepreneur, and the founder of a nonprofit in Greenville, South Carolina, called the Outstanding Youth Awards Initiative. You can't keep Brittney down, and she brings her infectious energy and positivity to the podcast today. She reminds us to use the gifts and talents we've been given to make a difference in our community. Join us in conversation. You seem to be a very busy woman. I saw that you just sang at the Triumph game, the national anthem. You are doing voice acting, you're doing entrepreneur stuff. You're a little bit all over the place. So are you tired? How are you hanging in there?
That's a great question. I sleep really well. People ask me all the time, like, do you sleep? Do you have good time management? You should write a book. I just love so many different types of artsy stuff. And I figure out ways to marry them together and make it work for me, make it work for kids, make it interesting, and kind of have the world enjoy it in a really fun way.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how everything connects.
Awesome. And it brings you the stress level of kind of being, because you have your hands in so many different things, doesn't really feel stressful because you love doing it.
Oh, Rebecca is stressful. It is stressful only because I'm a Virgo. And Virgos, we have a specific way to do things, sort of like Liam Neeson, like I have a specific set of skills.
Yes.
Skills that make me dangerous as a Virgo. So because of that, I'm really critical of myself. I'm constantly, every single day that I wake up, trying to do something differently than I did yesterday. Mm-hmm. And as an actor, that's really been, for the last 17, 18 years, the way that I live. And then I incorporate that mindset into everything else that I do. So it's like I can't lose.
Yeah.
And that sounds crazy to say. It sounds like something a superhero would say, like, oh, we can't lose. We've got this. Let's team up and put our rings together and we're the Power Rangers. It's sort of like that, but it's this sort of cool superpower that I have. I know that sounds really weird and sort of egotistical, but that's how I feel.
No, that's resilience. Getting up every day and no matter what happened the day before, being like, okay, I'm up now. What can I do differently today? Especially if yesterday was a quote unquote bad day, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. But you said something that I wanted to follow up on, being very critical on yourself. Mm-hmm. That can be a good thing because you're kind of doing a self-audit often, but it can also be a bad thing and lead to kind of getting stuck in loops of imposter syndrome, or I'm not good enough, or I'm a failure if something doesn't come through. How do you manage that critical judgment of yourself and make sure that you don't get too far over that line?
That's such a great question. I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. And there's really no way to fix it without therapy, right? You got to literally unpack every single piece of it. Mm-hmm. Like take the sweater out, unfold it, examine it, see where the wrinkles are, right? And just kind of figure out, so my time is focused on doing this, or where could my time be focused instead of going down this rabbit hole researching for grants for the nonprofit when I could really delegate that, or I could really make sure I give people more accountability. Mm-hmm. We Virgos, we like to do stuff and we know how to do it and
hang on to everything. Yeah. It's hard to let go control, especially when you're so intimately involved with every one of your projects.
Well, I feel like if I'm not, that leaves room for not doubt from me, but you won't know that I have my stamp on it.
Sure.
So, this is an opportunity and I guess this is the way I look at everything, it's an opportunity to really share with the world the gifts that you've been given, like an offering, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say, okay, these are the talents that God has given me. This is what my purpose is. Have some of my purpose. This is the reason that I'm on this earth, one of the reasons. And that's definitely to bring joy to kids and to make sure that they're empowered and motivated. Because I remember when I was that kid that needed that motivation and that empowerment. And then as an actor, you're constantly being told, you're not tall enough. Your hair is not long enough. I cut my hair in the industry and everybody freaked out. Oh, you're never going to work again. Oh, you're going to have to wig it up everywhere you go. And I've gotten more corporate jobs with my short hair, the look that I have, than ever before. This year and last year have been the best years of my life in this industry. But it's been 15, 16, 17, 18 years that I've been trucking along, trying to get to this point. And everything happens in its own timing, no matter how much you try to rush it. So I'm just learning to take it one day at a time, be grateful. My mantra is, a grateful life is an abundant life. You can't have the stuff that you want if you're not patient. I wasn't patient for a long time, and I didn't get it any faster.
Right.
I didn't get it any faster just because I wanted it like super, super bad. So you just gotta take things with a grain of salt, man, and just go as hard as you can and know that you did the work for the day. And that helps me sleep. Yeah.
And I mean, again, you do so much. So let's kind of like back up and dig in, because you mentioned the acting and the cutting of the hair and maybe your image being a little bit different. So let's kind of talk about acting first and about that world. Because I mean, it seems right now in our culture, you can look like anything and be representing a group, whether that's African-American women, whether it's people with short hair, whether that's an alternative group, like there's so many different visuals of people now versus even 20 years ago where everything might have been straight, white, whatever, middle of the country kind of image on TV. And we're seeing that change so much and we have so much more diversity. So that's kind of a part too of what you were just saying, like, hey, I cut my hair and now I've had the best 2 years. Part of that image change kind of lines up with the culture.
And it's funny you say culture because, you think about how the world has watched TV and television and movies and film forever. But it's taken Hollywood time to diversify their portfolio of talent, even though the talent's always been there. They've just become bolder, and more people of color have been able to greenlight jobs and opportunities for other people of color. So that's how you have Crazy Rich Asians. That's why you have all these movies or TV shows like Greenleaf, where they're depicting what it's like in the Black church. We've always had Black churches.
Right.
We've always had Black pastors, male, female. We've always had Asian folk. We've always had Caucasians and Black folk. We've been here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a mindset. There had to be like this whole paradigm shift to get everybody on the same page and say, wow, since our market involves everybody, not just Caucasians, not just Blacks, not just Asians, not just Native Americans, but all these people, why don't we make projects that people can really like jump on the bandwagon? So then you got like shows like Fresh Off the Boat.
Yeah.
Right? People were blown away. They're like, oh my gosh, I see someone like me on TV. And Black folk, we've been looking around like, we've been trying to tell y'all this for a long time. It took Denzel Washington getting an Academy Award for Training Day when he really deserved it for, everybody knows, Malcolm X. So it's a mindset. And I think that everybody now is really, they're more receptive to it. And they realize, oh, this talent pool is great. You think about it for a second. James Bond became a Black female.
Right.
James Bond has always been a white male.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, 007 was a dark-skinned Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was blown away.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful to me because I've always wanted to be James Bond.
Yeah.
So I'm looking up at the screen going, somebody heard my plea.
Yes.
And my prayer. So that's what we want. We want to feel like we're seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hollywood has done a really good job with that in the last few years. I mean, we could always do better. Mm-hmm. But the more projects that are funded, which is the other part of it, you know, you'll be able to have these opportunities. We've been watching what was available to us. Johnny Carson and Lawrence Welk and all these other shows. You think about Tina Turner going way back. When they would even let her be on certain shows or appear because she was Black.
Right. Which is unbelievable because
Billie Holiday.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Billie Holiday is one of my favorites when it comes to musical talent. And I remember the first time I heard her life story and I just had goosebumps and tears in my eyes and was just like, this is such an important story and nobody knows about it. You just bring it up now. I feel like we should just do an episode of educate people on Billie Holiday. Yeah. I know there's a movie out now too that people could see, but there's something about reading it. There's something about hearing it. I think I heard another podcast. I'll maybe mention it in the show notes if I can think of it. But man, her story and her struggle and the way the American government came after her and crushed her it's maddening.
And she was still brave.
And she was still brave and she was still fighting. But yeah, Billie Holiday, Tina Turner. I mean, these Black women.
The list goes on.
Led culture, led the way, you know, Nina Simone, who was born not that far from here and is another one of my favorites.
Young, gifted, and black.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves, and that's, you know, not to stray too far, but that's sort of why we wrote the book, My Safe Place, because...
Which is your children's book that is sitting in front of me here and coming out. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's why I said everything sort of marries all together. Because I'm able to do all the things that I do now for kids because I was encouraged as a kid. Those times where I was involved in 3 and 4 after school activities, didn't have much of a life as a kid, had more discipline than I should have at an early age because I was on the debate team. I was on student council. I was traveling. I was doing these different things. I was competing nationally, right? So I wasn't able to have fun like they were most of the time. So because of that, I was more disciplined and detailed, and I needed encouragement because there were times I did want to quit because I wanted to do stuff that was cool and fun and not work and practice. And teens go through that. So to have somebody on your side that will give you opportunities culturally, scholastically, volunteerism opportunities, that's what our nonprofit does. And then, of course, all the proceeds from the book are going to be poured back into our programming so that we can do more with our award ceremony, more where we can travel and do retreats and do amazing things to help pour into our kids.
Who encouraged you as a youth to pursue all these different things, debate team, all the things you were doing? Who was in your corner? Were these things you wanted to do or you were interested in and people said, yeah, you're good at it, you should do it and you should stick to it? Or was it someone projecting what they wanted you to do and you feeling?
So that's another great question. So I have been a ham since I came out of the womb. I always joke and I say that I had a hairbrush and I was like, wah, 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 like crying on scale. Right. That's just who I was. Baby Brittney is here. Like that was like the baby Beyonce. So with that said, my parents just put me in activities to help guide me. Yeah. So I studied at the Fine Arts Center with the late Michael Rice and was in the ARMS program, was in the South Carolina Children's Theater. Shout out to them. Woo. And then I came across in high school a gentleman by the name of Mr. Truman Humbert, who full circle now serves on my board for the nonprofit.
Okay.
So he coached at a different school. And long story short, he was at Southside High School. I was at JL Mann High School. But he personally and privately coached me in the living room and the dining room of my house. So my parents would feed him dinner and stuff. And he would come over a couple times a week and coach me and sent me to nationals twice.
And that was for debate or?
That was for the debate team.
Awesome.
So that was like my senior year. I was co-captain. It was a really awesome time. And I learned a lot. I still learn a lot from him. And like I said, full circle, he serves on my board and really supports what we do. He and his wife, his late wife, Miss Brenda, donated in a huge way to us. Mm-hmm. Just their time, their advice. He's really been a blessing, as well as my other board members. But Mr. Humbert holds a special place in my heart because, I wrote a letter to Oprah about him. And when the Great Debaters came out with Denzel Washington, I was like, that's my coach. That's Mr. Humbert.
Yeah.
So he was just blown away by that. And he's just really been a blessing. He's like an uncle to me.
I love that you were on the debate team because I think that's another thing in our culture right now of where people can't debate or disagree on things without having to hate each other or say I can't, we can't be friends. We can't whatever because you disagree with me. You have a different opinion than me. And being able to debate somebody in a civil manner and then shake hands and go, agree to disagree. This is what's supposed to make our country great and walk away from the table. Yeah. You don't hear a lot of people talk anymore about I was in debate club or or meet a lot of people who can do it.
Well, I was in the performing events. So I wasn't in extemporaneous debate and Senate or Congress. I did the fun stuff.
Yeah.
The performance events, the prose, the poetry-esque type things, hilarious, entertainment, so to speak. So dramatic interpretation, humorous interpretation. I never did duo because I didn't want to, it sounds awful, but I never wanted to put my fate in the hands of someone else. I was like, I can rely on me. So I'll just practice and I know what's in my brain, but I don't know what's in their brain.
Yeah.
So
I can hold myself accountable. It's going to be real hard to hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you did debate. What other, you were acting in grade school, high school, and then parlayed that after graduating high school into a career. What did you do after high school?
Well, continue to be weird and figure out ways to get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
That's really what being an actor is. You think about Johnny Depp. I say him because
he's a weirdo.
All the crap that he's had to go through.
Yeah.
But immensely talented.
Yes, very
just
talented.
A strange individual.
Yeah.
And he's not the only person out here that's a little weird. Mm-mm. But I think about the kids' voices that I do, all the animated characters, and all that is in my brain daily.
And you have to be able to laugh at yourself and not be embarrassed and let go. That's not my strong suit, that's for sure. At all. I can do this and I can public speak. Mm-hmm. And I've trained rooms full of people in prior careers and I've done a lot of stuff.
I totally see that.
But to do things that, I wouldn't do funny voices. I wouldn't.
Really?
I don't think I think I could take on a character and try to do it. Mm-hmm. But the entire time, my insides would be on fire of if this goes bad, just change your name, move to a new city. I would be dying inside.
So even as you say that, I go back to sitting in front of the TV as a kid and watching every cartoon and trying to mimic the voice. You got to get it wrong a few times before you get it right. So you just get it wrong before you go to the studio.
Yeah.
You kind of master it on your own. And then I've taken workshops with people like Lisa Biggs, who, man, she's like the Sam Jackson of voiceover. Mm. So she's done all different types of character voices, from little boys to little girls to snotty-nosed kids. And they're she's done all that kind of stuff. you just have to be creative and just always know how to heighten. And of course that goes back to acting, right? Because when you're doing improv, they teach you how to heighten, how to say yes and, how to keep going, all these different things, the 7 rules of, have you ever taken improv?
I haven't, but I love listening to comedians, and a lot of comedians have all done improv. Like, I'm a big fan of like the Amy Poehlers and the Tina Feys and all of those have done
short form,
improv.
long form, all that. It helps. I mean, I know business people that have done improv only because it makes them wittier, it makes them more creative, and they have
able to do
go.
pitches and stand in front of people. Yeah.
Exactly. And it sort of prepares you for the positive and the negatives of how things can go. So yeah, I think acting has always sort of been inside of me, even when I was really small. And it just gives me this creative juice that flows into everything else.
What's been your favorite gig that you've done?
Man, I don't want anybody to get upset. Any of my clients, close your ears. I think I would have to say 2 recently. I just flew out to Wichita, Kansas to record a job for Deloitte.
Okay.
Which was amazing. I got a chance to meet Spot the dog. I had the tech lingo, I don't understand it. I never have. But I seem to be the voice for tech shows, for tech. It was a 2-minute video for the Smart Factory.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to YouTube, you can find it. But it was super fun. It was a 3-day shoot. The crew was great. The script was probably the hardest script I've ever had to learn.
Because it's all tech language. Yeah.
And it had to be memorized. This wasn't on teleprompters. Sometimes we can cheat.
Yeah.
But it was tough. It was a lot of lingo, a lot of, I can't even remember it now. I threw it out of my head as soon as but that was really fun. They treated me really well. And then most recently, I went to Nebraska. Never had been to Omaha, Nebraska before. And I did a job for Physicians Mutual.
Okay.
Pet insurance. Hey,
fun.
So every time I see a dog now, I'm like, look at the little
You're like, I could sell you some pet insurance.
Exactly. So Doctor was the name of the dog. Doctor. Yeah.
Oh, that's
the famous dog in the spot with me. But yeah, I'm just grateful. And note, those are 2 corporate gigs. I love all of the theatrical stuff. I don't seem to do as much of it. I do more of the corporate voiceovers, corporate commercials, explainer videos, talking head videos. That's sort of where the lane of my voice has directed me. But it's cool.
What advice would you give to somebody who's like, I want to be an actor. I want to pursue that.
I would say 2 things. Make sure you have a really good support system. Because the industry can, if you let it, it can really deter you in a lot of ways. Sort of like, being a musician in the entertainment industry. Like, there are a lot of, I don't want to say predators, but there are a lot of predatory situations that you can get yourself into if you're not careful. And you have to have somebody that you trust, that you can count on. I will say that. That's really what's kept me all these years. And I think the other piece would be, don't take yourself too seriously. I wanted to be an actor so bad. Like, my entire life. That's all I wanted to do every day. That was the focus. I don't want a boyfriend. I just want to be an actor. And I even acted with my boyfriends. And, it was just a lot. Don't take yourself so seriously. Just chill. Take it one day at a time. Learn all you can. Take as many workshops as you can. Free, paid. Do it all. So that you can understand that there's a plethora to know about this industry.
And a lot of different avenues. I think people forget, like, there's voiceover work. There's, like you mentioned, corporate work.
But yeah, there are lots of lanes. You know, looping apparently is something that is huge these days.
What's looping?
So looping is like when you do a voiceover and a company owns it or a production house owns it and they can use it for another project.
Ah.
Right?
Okay.
So that's happened before. Like, for instance, I did a project for Tyler Perry. And I was a 911 operator. So they actually looped that. So
smart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As long as you get paid.
Yeah, I was going to say, as long as you get paid for both.
I will accept all checks. There are lots of different lanes. Just find a group. Be on Facebook. Figure out what works best for you. Mm-hmm. And find people who like to do what you like to do. And just have a tribe. Create a tribe. And stick with those people. And I think networking is going to be big for you. I have so many friends that are film directors, producers, PAs. We all sort of talk about what opportunities are happening. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, there's a friend of mine who's a producer at ETV. Met him years ago. And I've been able and very fortunate to walk into a couple of opportunities because he remembered me. And he remembered, oh, Brittney does this. She's hosted, a couple of radio shows and she's done voiceover stuff and blah, 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 blah. She'd be great to be a correspondent on this show.
So talk to us about your nonprofit.
Yeah.
What started it? What kicked it off?
An idea zap from the Holy Spirit. That was another one that sort of came to me. I was in the middle of another project. I had written some children's books. And my brother, Brooks Brackett, shout out to Brooks Brackett.
Yeah, I'm looking at his art right here. And I said this to you when you walked in the door, like, oh, I'm glad you brought the book because I wanted to see what the art looked like on the inside. Because just the cover is so anointed. Beautiful.
He's amazing. My brother is so talented and gifted. He was drawing the Rugrats at like the age of 3. Freehand. My mom was like, what is this? Oh my God, my son is a savant.
Yeah.
Like she was just freaking out. So this is actually the 4th children's book that he and I have done together, but this is the first globally published one. And it's a big deal because, we were able to have the opportunity with the state of South Carolina's help and Senator Carl Allen's help with a grant that we received. So with that said, that goes with the patience. Like this book was meant to be published in 2020 during the pandemic. It's 2022. So I sat on this book because I was like, oh man, it's going to cost me like $5,000 to publish this book. I don't want to spend that right now. Right. I got other stuff. I'm trying to do acting stuff. I'm trying to pay rent. I'm trying to, like all these things that are in my brain. And I just waited and I was patient. And the masterpiece that is there is because my brother put his hands on it. I just kind of give him, like I said, okay, I want a little girl with Afro puffs on the cover. Do whatever you want with the rest of it. Use the words, go where your brain lets you go. And giving people creative freedom helps to bring out the best work. I bawled so hard when I saw the book because even though the book's illustrations are so beautiful, there's a couple of hidden meanings in the book, right? It starts off with kids that are in the fetal position. They're full of anxiety and they're anxious and depressed. And slowly they gain this confidence and they have these affirmations that are like speaking life into them. And then it helps them sort of get a better frame of mind of how powerful they really are. And that's why affirmations and motivators and having the right people in your corner make a difference, because that's where the mindfulness exercises came from in the back of the book. 8 pages. Not only do you have affirmations that are telling you you're brave, you're smart, you set the candle, you light the candle that sets the fire ablaze, right?
Yeah.
Like you're sitting there holding your arms up, flexing, like I am powerful. I am cool. I'm a little different, which is fine. I'm cool because I am different. So, and then with the t-shirts to match, we've got backpacks. I mean, as a kid, you want to be able to see your power to remind you. That's why people buy graphic tees. We like graphic tees that say, how about them tacos?
Right.
Or whatever they say, right? I have on one right now that says thankful and blessed.
Yeah, I have one that says nature with a tree on it. And nature's my church. This book, this new book, My Safe Place, it's not just teaching kids self-care, but also coping.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you only know the very like raw emotions of like happy, sad, angry. Really, that's it. And we have to learn all the other nuanced sort of emotions and how we deal with them versus kids that maybe have a rough upbringing.
Yeah.
And so anger is the way they express every emotion, and it's maybe breaking stuff or it's whatever versus, you know, one of the mantras in this book, or like you said, hey, finding a way to be in nature and letting that calm you down and using self-care as a coping skill.
Well, that's exactly it. And when you think about the control that adults have on where they can go, what they can do, if they want to spend the money and go to a retreat or get there, thanks to my boo, we go get our foot massages. They have to go with what they know or what they've been exposed to. You know, just like, how are there racist people? Because someone exposed them to racism. Racism is learned. Okay. It is totally learned. So the same way something negative can be learned, something positive can be learned. So you want your kids, if you have kids or people that look up to you, friends, cousins, whatever, you want them to know that they can also have certain things. Mindfulness is free. It is free.
I love that you said that.
It's totally free.
And we started to kind of dig into it, but we got off topic, and that's great. But you started this nonprofit and your book sales benefit back towards the nonprofit. And so what are you guys doing with the nonprofit? How does it operate? It's scholarships, correct?
Yes. So since 2015, we have been an organization that empowers and motivates kids for greatness. We started giving scholarships. We were giving away a $500 scholarship to the overall winner, but we have 7 categories that we recognize kids. And it turned into a loose leaf opportunity for mentorship because we had people who were adults and young adults who were working in those categories. So for instance, athlete of the year, innovator, entrepreneur, scholar, entertainer, volunteer of the year, and then overall outstanding youth. Trying to get to the point where we're trying to get funding so that we can always give away $500 minimum to each kid. But we give away trophies. We give away scholarships to art camp. We've done an art competition during when all the world was going crazy for George Floyd. We had an art competition and we gave away $250 across to 3 different kids. One of them and I'll have to send you the picture. One of them did a painting. The other one did a pencil and paper drawing. Another one did a sculpture. And her sculpture was like a head with a big afro and had her arms and wrists up with chains on them. So it just goes to show you how our kids are viewing all the things that are going on.
Right.
You know, you think we take it hard as adults. Imagine what the kids are feeling. And we don't know if we don't ask them or involve them in some way. So we did a StreamYard forum where we talked about what happened with George Floyd. We talked about policing and a few other things with a couple of community advocates. We've done cultural awareness events. We've done volunteerism where we've gotten together 20, 30 kids to put together essential worker stockings. We went and delivered those during the pandemic to the Blood Connection, to grocery store workers, to the post office workers, everybody who people sort of forgot about. So that's sort of what we focus on. We took it and expanded it, not just from having the award ceremony, which is great, but the cultural aspect, buying tickets to Peace Center shows or events in the community, giving them to the kids, allowing parents to be chaperones and have the exposure that kids need to say, wow, somebody cares about me. And because they care about me, I'm going to do the best that I can do to be successful down the road.
Love that, opening up doors to new opportunities, tickets to the Peace Center to see shows or music or that's so important because that gets missed, I think. And somehow they got to develop. You don't know who the next, and especially in your case, you know this so well, you don't know who the next Denzel Washington is going to be.
No.
And if they never get the chance to go see a live performance of something or theater, it doesn't, that could be, spark never gets lit.
Exactly. That could be given to them because you cared enough about them. Sometimes you just get a feeling to do stuff. And I guess what you need to be concerned is if you don't ever get a feeling to do anything, why?
You need to check in with your heart center for sure.
Yeah. It's not like I guess you could say I'm addicted to doing good, but I haven't always been that way. I've messed up. I'm human. I've made bad decisions. But I think as life goes on, I understand that life is not about the things that I want. It's about ways that I can help people and make their lives better and my life better.
We need those people in our community because we're not all those people. Or like you just said, we're not those people all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that's part of the reason of this podcast is let's get to know people in our local communities again that are doing things.
Yeah. People
aren't going to know about your nonprofit if we're not talking about it, if we're not getting people to show up. Like, how do we make it better every year for you? Even if my part is just letting people know that it's the Outstanding Youth Awards and here's how you can find information to donate or go buy the book that's going to go right back and benefit this organization. Maybe that's my part I play because you're creating the opportunity for people. And then there's people that come and work alongside you.
Yeah.
You're bored. That's their part to play. So there's nothing wrong with, like, you don't need to be Superman in your community necessarily. You just need to play your role in your community. You put out into the world and you give what you want to get back.
Right. It's like, maybe the book is not enough. Maybe the nonprofit is not enough. Maybe the way that I volunteer in the community, the work that I do at my church is not enough. But maybe my voice, letting somebody know it's important to be kind, will help them be kind to somebody else. It's not about how you feel. I don't always feel like being nice. We wouldn't have all these shootings and all this other stuff in the world if we were more aware.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because Greenville has changed so much. You grew up here, correct? So in your time here, what changes have you seen? And just recently in the news, there was these 4 guys caught for beating up homeless people in a portion of Greenville, which was just so shocking to me because we don't have a lot of that here. Yeah. But Greenville has changed so much over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
I think, this is a sensitive subject for both sides, but we're going to go there. I think, I've been fortunate. I stay in an area that has, for the most part, always been safe. But with a lot of the gentrification happening and people being moved and sort of uprooted from a place that they know. And then, as much as I love parks, you have to think about Unity Park, right? We spend $60 million on a park. Green spaces are amazing, but we still have hundreds of homeless people, not just in our city. Cities across the country. So it just makes you wonder, as much as Greenville is cognizant of how beautiful we want our city to be, we have to be aware of every facet of it. And I have a friend, like I said before, I have a friend who's a film director. He did a documentary called Homeless in the South years ago. And he talked about all the statistics of people living here, those who are being counseled by various organizations, not just here, everywhere. They have transitional housing here, there, lots of places. It doesn't work for everybody. Everybody doesn't have the same discipline. Some people are under the influence of a lot of different things.
A lot of mental health issues that are not addressed.
And that's the last one. So that translates into the National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, Mental Health Centers of America, Suicide Prevention Line, 988, by the way, if nobody knows. There are a lot of things that have to do with the homeless population. But when you say somebody got beat up, that's upsetting, because instead of helping somebody, you'd rather bring harm to them, and they aren't trying to harm you. That's what breaks my heart about these school shootings. What breaks my heart about, the stuff that happened at the Capitol. People don't deserve to die because you're having a bad day. No excuse. Nobody deserves to have their life taken because you found out you got some bad news about whatever. That's not the way this whole thing works. You got to get yourself figured out over here.
The mindfulness or wellness retreat as a group of kids, because that's the other thing, right? With like technology isolates us so much.
Yeah.
Because we can sit on a computer and have friends across the globe playing some video game. And so, yeah, we have this community, but we have this community, which for some kids, it's amazing. I have a friend whose son has a great group of kids that they play online. And that's almost like the rare case of technology bringing people together, where it seems to pull us. You can be a kid, and if your parents aren't paying attention, you can go down in the basement and play video games and get on a white nationalist website and be indoctrinated, or a terrorist group website and be indoctrinated, and nobody's watching that. And we celebrate technology, and there's a lot of great things about technology. I don't want to just rag on. I'm very thankful for the internet. I'm thankful for the expediency of things. But there's a lot of dangers around kids getting online and having this unfiltered access, and having that ability to be indoctrinated. And then I say we as a culture, as a country, not really paying attention until it's too late.
Well, and then you have the enormous World Wide Web. I mean, it's worldwide. I can only imagine the number of businesses and groups that are orchestrated and have websites and all these different things that are happening on the web. I have 3 websites alone.
Right.
Author websites, this and that. I'm just one person, right? Imagine, like you say, white nationalists and all these hate groups, and there's so many things for people to choose from. And then let's not get into Instagram and Facebook, how they monitor and target us.
And YouTube with their algorithms of
our phones.
They're very, very good at taking you down rabbit holes.
Alexa is always listening. My mom made a joke one time, and she said, "You don't have Alexa in the bedroom, do you?" I was like, "Mom." And it was just so funny. And I said, I never thought about that. That's kind of crazy.
You're like, I don't now, as you throw it out the window.
I don't need you anymore. Yeah, the world is vast, and we just have to be careful. Setting parental, once again, not a parent, setting parental controls for your kids, limiting what they can do. But if you're in a bad environment, who's going to do that if mom or dad is doing whatever, out working? Some single parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. There are so many things that can happen because isolation does that. And you start getting curious. You're like, what is this pornography? What is all of these things? What is this stuff? And that's when all the bad stuff can start to fill people's heads. Not just kids and teens, but adults too.
Yeah.
The pandemic, let's be reminding everybody, was not kind to some folk. Some people still have anxiety. And they're coming out of, it's funny how people have anxiety coming out of the anxiety of being at home.
Yeah.
It's changed me. I used to be this super outgoing person. I used to love to go to networking events, and I used to love to be here and there. the pandemic turned me into a super nerd
Mm-hmm.
in a good way, right?
Yeah.
I was reading books and I was taking classes online, and I took an improv class with the Groundlings in California, right? I was like, Zoom is fantastic. This is so cool. I'm doing improv with somebody that's 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Insane. But not everybody is positively creative or productive. Some people are getting into stuff, and that's where they go down that rabbit hole, and the white rabbit's right there to meet them.
Mm-hmm.
Come on through. Let me show you how we can get here and there. And that's not the best place for them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we've just got to try to pull the coattails and say, hey, there's some cool stuff going over here that's safe. Come over here and not be involved in that.
And your children's books, I mean, that's a great place to start. I'm a big reader.
Yay.
I have books in every room. And I got started as a child reading. My parents read to me. Mm-hmm. It opened up the world.
Of course.
In a healthy way. Mm-hmm. You know, the ability to think, Dolly Parton with her Imagination Library has a quote. Yeah. Has a quote about, you know, if you can read, you can go anywhere. You can learn anything.
True.
You don't have to have money, but if you can read, you can teach yourself anything.
Yeah. All these little pieces of information that remind you, man, I haven't been there, but I just went in my mind. Mm-hmm. I haven't been to Bora Bora, but I can look at, you know, the population there, and I can look at pictures, and I can dream about it one day. Mm-hmm. But the fact that I know about it, nobody can take that from me.
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about knowledge and exposing yourself to how your imagination can really work. Mm-hmm. I've always had a really vivid imagination because I am a kid at heart. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how I can bring these projects to kids in a way that is familiar and relatable, because I love playing with them. I mean, I give stuff away all the time. Mm-hmm. I met a little girl today, thanks to my producer. I gave a book to her. And you know how you feel angels. Mm-hmm. Kids are angels. Some of them are angels. Not all of them. I work with a lot of kids. Some of them are angels. But I
that
saw
innocence,
her.
the spark for life and the opportunities to come.
She was 4. Mm. And the age group, I know it's a broad age, but 4 to 12, because I feel like that's the age, like before you become a teenager, and those years where you really need to be stroked in a different way.
Yeah.
Like your mind has got to be on the right things to stay focused before you cross over into the angry land of teenagerville.
Right. Of puberty. And your parents, we kind of mentioned them at the beginning of this podcast. They seem to be very supportive of you and your career. Tell us about them.
I am extremely fortunate to have parents that believe in me, even when I didn't. You know, I am a total Looney Tune. My parents have comforted me through that throughout my life. And they've reminded me, you're different, you're unique. This is definitely going to pay off for you. Just stick with it, stay focused. You know, don't get distracted by the crappy stuff that happens to you in your life. Mm-hmm. It can't go well all the time. There are going to be some moments where you might be sick. You might get a diagnosis, or you might have money issues, or maybe you have to move home to help out a parent. You know, I've been through that. Mm-hmm. So having to do things that make you uncomfortable are okay, as long as you don't lose the light that's inside of you. Mm-hmm. And if you know how to let that drive you, it can take you where you're supposed to go instead of it hindering you. And I think that's kind of been where you say the resiliency comes from, because there are a lot of things that I thought would break me, but I'm to the point now where I go, oh, so that's why that happened. Oh, okay, I'm cool with that now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really piss me off like it used to.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can handle this. And then you understand that that's what life is all about. It's like life is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah. And you have
really-
that support system
Yeah,
in your family.
truly. They have given me so many pieces of knowledge that help me understand myself better.
Mm.
I didn't understand myself. I was just fishing, literally fishing in the dark
Yeah.
for whatever I could hold on to that made me feel cool or like I knew what I was talking about or like I knew what I was doing. But now I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I'm very sure that what I do has a market. So I know how to get into that niche. I know what people are looking for, what the lane is, what the MO is, so to speak. And then I just do it. And then I like sales.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing, you know what you're good at, stick to that, and the rest will kind of present itself. I'm lucky and I'm grateful.
What's next? I mean, this book just came out. Again, the name of the book is My Safe Place. And where can people get this if they want to purchase it?
So we're really fortunate to have this book on Amazon. You can look for it, My Safe Place by Brittney Brackett. It's also on barnesandnoble.com. We also have an ebook version available now, so you can grab that. And then you can visit outstandingyouth.awards.com. We have a kids' clothing line that debuted in May at the Children's Museum, which is all affirmation, sort of similar to the book, but it's all affirmation type clothing. So we have an icon that says